my gorgeous plant people, welcome back to Rooting Mindfully. My name is Yana, and today it is time for another houseplant tour, winter edition. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so before I get into my houseplant tour, I just wanted to give a couple words here. This is going to be the raw look of my houseplants at this point in time. Yellow leaves, burnt leaves, everything. Like, you guys are going to see what my houseplants are looking like right now. I'm going to give you full transparency, as well as I'm actually thinking about decluttering some of my houseplants. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys want to see me do a declutter section or like a how to declutter your houseplant collection, because I am going to do that regardless. So if you guys want me to film that, I will go ahead and do so. But let's get into it. I'm going to show you what we got. Alright guys, so as usual, we're going to start in the same spot. Here is my Sansevieria. I love this Sansevieria and how thick it is. We have my ZZ plant here. Hasn't really done too much. I actually think I wasn't watering it enough because I did get a couple of brown leaves on this plant, which if you do get brown leaves is probably an indication that you need to go ahead and water it. So I am making sure that I'm watering this plant more. And when I watered it, look what popped up. So that's another indication of maybe that I wasn't watering it enough. So that's the ZZ plant. If I come over here to my desk / office area, this is just my parlor palm. And for some reason my parlor palm has been acting up. If you can see that brown foliage, but yeah, this is my parlor palm. We're just gonna end up cutting off this dead foliage, because as you can see here and here, it is coming out with a lot newer foliage. So I'll just go through and cut off the dead and dried pieces. I think as well I wasn't watering this one enough because it was in my other area and it was like tucked in there, so I wasn't able to really see it. So now that I put it back over here where I can you know, see it more, I'll be able to keep a track of the watering. So now if you come over here, the first plant you'll see is my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and this plant is doing really well. If you saw my propagation video, you will know that I just cut this plant back because it was growing off the moss pole. It was all the way to the top of my my window, so it is a lot shorter now. And then if we get in close here, you can see that there's a new growth points here and where this little white nub is, and there's some more. There's one here, but there's a couple of growth points that are coming up on this plant. So that's another thing that happens when you propagate your plants, is that it will go ahead and stimulate other nodes on the plant, and that all that will fill in. As well as I do have cuttings of this plant, so I will pot them on this side so that this side will fill in and be full like the other side. And then down here I have my golden dragon, still doing pretty good, putting out nice sized leaves. It's not highly variegated or anything, but it is doing really nice, and it has a really nice texture, as if you can see that on the leaf. So that one's doing well. That one always does well though. Here I have my Burle Marx. I actually removed this plant from off the stand because it just looked too wild on the stand. So I placed it here on the floor where it doesn't look as wild, and I like this look better because it does create a more lush look. So I prefer that than to have it on the stand. And you'll see what plant that I put on the stand instead. Here I have my bird's nest fern, which is doing amazing. At one point this fern was turning a really pale green color. It was kind of like, it kind of looked like this, and what I did was I had to do some research to see why this plant was turning colors like that. And I saw that when ferns don't get enough water, they will actually kind of like bleach their own leaves, so it'll fade to a lighter green. And so if you monitor your leaves and you monitor the soil, make sure this plant is well watered, it will have this nice, vibrant, shiny leaf. So that was something that I learned about my fern, was that I really need to keep up on the water, and the color of the leaf really let me know when it needs to be watered. Up here I just have my Scindapsus. This was where my burl marks was, and I actually like this plant better here because it just looks a lot nicer, and I figured that when it starts to trail, that would look nice as well, just to see it you know, trail over the edge. I think that would be really cool. But this one's pretty much enjoying this here. I might have to water this more since it's getting more light now that it's off the floor and in front of the window, so I'm going to really monitor this one. If we come to the windowsill, this plant here, this is my Philodendron squamiferum, and if we get up close, doesn't that look like something off of Dr. Seuss? Like, it did have one leaf, and I just picked it off yesterday actually because it was not good at all. So I actually didn't want to leave that on for the video because it was really in bad shape. But this is all we have left of my squamiferum, and yeah, Dr. Seuss. But this plant, I'm about to put this plant on a time frame because I feel like after a while, like I'm just not gonna want to keep trying to save this plant or get it to grow. So I'm gonna give this plant, I think, till the next growing season to get its act right. And here we have my fibrosum, and if you guys remember the last houseplant tour, it was just this leaf here, and then after it shot out these two leaves. So this one's doing really well. I'm so happy that this one pulled through because I was actually really not sure about this plant for a really long time, and I'm really happy that it's pulling itself together, and I think that's another growth point in there, so I'm hoping that this plant will really do well. Here is my Begonia Tamaya. As you can see, she has made a full recovery, and I'm so happy because she almost went out to the compost, but I'm glad I gave her another chance because she is beautiful, and I really like how she just bounced back. But I do think from now moving forward that I am going to keep her this size. If you check out my Instagram, she was huge, and it was just too much to manage, especially when she got thrips. It was just too many leaves and branches to maintain it, but I like this more petite version of her, so that's the look that we're going to keep going for with that one. Here we have my Billietiae, my Philodendron Billietiae. This is the last leaf that it put out. This one is a slower grower for me, but I think once it gets growing, it's gonna take off. I'm just waiting for it to get that, you know, hit that stride, but this is a nice leaf. As you can see, it has another growth point there. And this one is one that I really have to watch with watering because it does drink a lot of water, so I do have to pay attention to that one. If we come down here, this hot mess is my Syngonium macrophyllum. If y'all remember, this was the beanstalk that I chopped down, and like I kind of figured that the bottom was not going to do well. I knew it when I cut it down that something was going to happen, and as you can see, I was right. So I'm really glad that I propagated this plant, and I'll show you guys the cuttings. But I'm gonna get rid of this. It's not doing well at all. So I'm gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna pot those cuttings, and it would actually look better anyway when I pot the cuttings. Here is my Scindapsus trubii. This plant just does well on its own. It doesn't really require too much. I love the silver foliage of this plant. I've had this plant for probably 2 years now, and it did get burnt at some point, but the leaves that are coming in are really nice. Let me just move that. It is a really nice plant, and it grows really well for me. And a lot of people do say that this plant grows slowly, but I don't know, it just looks really, it just grows really well. So I don't think that this one really grows slowly for me. It's a pretty good grower. Here is my Monstera celtibacana. I did have this one on a moss pole. I like this look a lot better. This looks really good for me. And you see the leaves are getting bigger, and it doesn't even have a moss pole, so maybe this one doesn't need a moss pole to get bigger leaves. So as you can see, this one's really big and these are tiny. But I like this more bushy salad bowl look than what I had going on with the moss pole. But if you can see the veining there, I really love the veining on this plant. And this is actually the longest time I've had a Monstera celtibacana. Any other time when I had this plant before, it just bottomed out. So this is a long winning streak. But you can see I do have some dead pieces that I need to pick off. But this is full transparency. I'm showing you guys everything. Here we have my Philodendron melanochrysum. This one's doing really well. This was the last leaf that it put out. And you can see that it's putting out a leaf here. But this plant, like I said, is doing well. I have a lot in this plant because I chopped it and now it's just filling out. So that's why you see all those leaves in there, because I had multiple pieces in here. So after a while, it's just going to be a really full plant, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll look nice with this plant. I'm thinking about chopping it again here and here, just so it can be full and kind of leveled. I don't really like when the plants are full at the bottom and then they get you know, leggy at the top. So I kind of want it to be even. But I was waiting to see if this one, you know, would reach this piece, but it's just not going to do that. So I think I might chop this again just so it can all be the same height. And then if we come over here, here's my Atabapoense. I love this plant. It never gives me a hard time. In fact, I don't even think this one got affected by thrips, which is weird because it was in the same area with plants that had thrips. But this one gives me huge leaves. I think this was the last leaf, and if you guys watched my plant updates video, I had it over there under my Sanzilite, and that's why it's kind of bleached looking. But as you can see, I did move this plant, and so a lot of the yellowing did fade away and it's a lot darker. So this one actually didn't like having the Sanzilite, so I moved it on this side and it's doing a lot better. This is the last leaf that's coming in, and it hasn't hardened off yet, so it might get a little bit bigger, but even if it doesn't, it likes it better over here now that it doesn't have so much light. So sometimes so most of the time, like, plant collecting is just about finding what spot your plants does well. So if your plants are going to be bleached and everything, it's just best that you move the plant and try to find another spot for it if you can. And then here is my Philodendron verrucosum melanochrysum. This is just a gorgeous plant. It just gives me the most beautiful leaves. I did propagate this one as well, and that's why you see this new growth point here. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it has any other growth points, but this one's also doing well, and the cuttings I have left are doing well, and they're actually rooting pretty fast, so I'll be able to go ahead and pot them back in the bottom there to make this plant fuller, because I think this one would look really good full. So that's that plant. This one doesn't give me any trouble, and as you can see, it does have some thrip damage, if you can see those little holes, but it's still looks really good, even though it had thrip issue. And then we have my Anthurium cobra, which I got this plant from Ill Exotics. And let me just tell you, this plant, I just don't even know what is wrong with this plant. Move, Sage. This plant, ever since I brought it home, the roots have been so weird on this one. Even my mom had the same issue with the roots on this plant. When we went to go pot it, the roots just snapped like a piece of popcorn or like a chip. They just snapped. And so I'm not really sure what's wrong with this plant, if it was just a bad supply of plants, but this one just has bad roots. If you see my mom's, hers is just like dying and yellowing, and she's actually trying to water propagate to see if she can get new roots on it. But yeah, something was wrong with the roots on that plant. Here, this plant is my Monstera stanleyana. As you can see, I have neglected it. It is looking a little rough. So the top part of the plant doesn't look bad, but you can tell there was some neglect here. So what I'm going to do, and what I wanted to do anyway with this plant, is I'm just going to chop all this up, and I'm actually going to start the whole plant over, because that's what I wanted to do with this plant anyway, because I'm not liking the moss pole anymore. I'm not liking it on the totem pole anymore. So I think I'm going to just chop it all up and make it bushy like my other variegated version, which I'll show you guys later. But I like the bush version of these plants a lot better than I'm liking the moss pole. So this one's going to be on my list to be propagated. And if we come over here, we have my Monstera adansonii. This plant is recovering from thrips, and I would say that it doesn't look that bad. Like you can see, obviously tell that it went through some things, but this plant doesn't look bad. It just needs to be it really needs to be fixed on the moss pole, so that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, this one doesn't look terrible. This one was actually going to be on the way out if it didn't get its life together, but I think we're walking the same path now, so yeah. Over here we have my bird's nest champion fern. This is another fern that will let you know it needs water, because the leaves will get to be that light green color. So I actually just watered this one and it perked right up. Here we have my whale fin. This is the newest pup. I'm really enjoying this plant. I hope it gives me some more pups, because I really like how this one is coming along. I don't really like this long piece, but I think that's what happened when it didn't get a lot of light. And then behind it is my ZZ plant. I think that's the Akebono. It's the Akebono variety. It hasn't really done too much, so we'll just see how that one goes. Here is my Jade Syngonium. I actually staked this one up because it kept leaning all over the other plants. This one is also doing well. And it weirdly didn't get affected by thrips, so that one's doing good. I like the pop of the chartreuse green. Here we have my Thai constellation. If you guys watched my other video, you saw that I actually chopped this one back to give my mama cutting. And this is actually the leaf that it just put out, which I'm just like, this is so tiny. But I'm just glad that it's growing. So yeah, it just popped up this tiny leaf, and it actually has this growth here. So I'm hoping that this one is actually going to be bigger. But and then this is my Monstera Peru. This is another plant I'm thinking about chopping all the way down to make a bush, because I just don't know if I like this moss pole look. I mean, it looks good, but I would like it to be more filled in. So I think this one would be one that would look good in the bush version. Let me know what you guys think. I definitely need to chop this up because this looks crazy. And then here is my Aglaonema cutlass, always looking good. And here we have my Philodendron squamiferum. I think I called my other one a squamiferum. It's actually a squami petiolatum. But this is my squamiferum. If you can see the furry petioles, it's such a nice, interesting plant. And I love how the petioles are green and red. But this is the last leaf that it's working on, and it is really beautiful. That's what that plant looks there. And I just love the size of the leaves that it puts off. Here is one of the plants that gives me a hard time, and if you guys have been with me since the beginning, you would know that my Philodendron mammy and I are not the best of friends. But because this plant keeps trying to grow, I haven't kicked it to the curb. But yeah, this is my Philodendron mammy, and I'm just hoping that she pulls herself together. I think I'm also going to give this one another growing season to give itself, get itself together. If not, she might have to move on because we have started over multiple times with this plant. Here is my Philodendron Birkin. This one's doing pretty good. I think I needed to up pot this plant because you can see that this leaf that came out, this was the last one, is really tiny. So usually when you have tiny leaves, you have to check the conditions of your plant. And I think this one just needed more room because of the roots were growing out. And as you can see, it's putting out another growth point here. So I'm getting a lot of variegation here. And I decided to move it over here so I could get a little bit more light. And this here is the struggle buster. This is one of my struggle busters. And this is my Philodendron Soderoy. This plant is just struggling. Even with the new leaf, you can see that it does not look good. So this plant has until the next growing season to get itself together. If not, it's going. It might go before that, but I might give it a little bit more time. So as you can see, all my plants don't look good at this current point in time, but they all look good for the most part. This is my Syngonium albo. This plant just does so well. I decided to move it over to my Sansilite to maintain the white on this plant, and I think it's doing pretty well. The leaves are getting a lot bigger because it's getting more light, but I have no complaints with this plant. And here is my Philodendron McDowell. She's getting bigger and bigger, and she is taking up a lot of space. But this is the size of her leaves. She is massive. Most of these leaves were grown outside. This leaf here was grown outside. I don't think I could get such a big leaf inside unless I had maybe a south-facing window. This leaf here, I think this leaf was grown inside, if I'm not mistaken, maybe outside. And then this here is the newest leaf. As you can see, it hasn't really hardened off yet, so it might get a bit bigger. I'm not sure, but this is the leaf that came when I had to bring the plants back inside. And then as you can see, it does have some thrip damage, but even with thrips, it still is a pretty good plant. It hasn't, declined too much. And then if I step back, that's how big the plant is. So it is a really nice sized plant. If you can see my hand in comparison, and the reason why the leaves are facing this way is because it was on this side of my Sansilite. So I moved it on this side so that it could kind of go back this way. And if I get any more newer growth, I kind of want it to come back this way. So with these crawlers, you do have to make sure you rotate them so that way the stem in the bottom will kind of work, it will grow the way you want it to grow, and so it doesn't just grow in a straight line. And I would probably have to make a video on that, on how I try to maneuver my crawler so that way I don't have to just keep repotting them because they're growing in a straight line. Because this one's actually, I got this one to rotate. But this is my Philodendron pedatum. I love this plant. I love the leaves and how it just gives me like reindeer vibes. This is a newer leaf because there's multiple plants in here. I showed that in my propagation video, but this side is one, and then over here is one, and that's where that new growth point is. So there's 2 plants in here, and that's why it's full like this. If we step back, this is my Monstera. He is looking a little busted right now, in my opinion. But I don't know, I'm going back and forth between this plant. Like before, when I had this plant, I never wanted to cut it because I was so scared of cutting it. But now I'm just thinking I want to cut it all the way back. I'm thinking about cutting it all the way back, and the reason why is because this is all bare. The bottom is all bare. So I'm thinking about cutting it all the way back so that way I can stick it further in the pot, so that way it's more full. So let me guys know what you think. But I'm thinking about cutting it all the way back so that way I can shift it down, so that way it's not as tall and the bottom's not as bare. I think that's what's gonna happen. Here I have my Philodendron mexicanum. This one, I'm not sure if I like this one yet, but I think it's because it's still juvenile. So we'll see about this one. This is my Philodendron nigritans. We are kind of not on the same page. We'll see how this plant does. It is doing a lot better than it was. And I do like this one because of the petioles. It reminds me of pop rocks. But we do have some new growth points here, so it is growing. But I do like this one. This one has more of a lily pad kind of look to it. So if I declutter, I won't get rid of this one. Over here we have my Monstera subpinnata. This one does really well. Again, it just gives me bamboo vibes, so I do like that Monstera. We have my Philodendron gloriosum. This plant, I have no idea. I don't know how I feel about this plant. If you can see here, it had a leaf and that one fell off. So this is the only leaf I have, and it has this growth point here. I did cut up the stem to see if I could get it to grow from different pieces, so I'll be able to see if I can have growth points on both ends of these stems. And like I said, I probably have to do a video on that, but I'm going to experiment with this plant. This is my Australian tree fern. This is my baby. I love this fern so much. You can see in the beginning I did not have the watering down, but I am doing so much better. These are all new fronds, and I just love how full this fern is getting. And I'm really wondering if it's gonna get taller, but see, I wasn't good with the watering. But we're getting new fiddleheads, so many new fiddleheads in here. So I'm excited for this plant to fill out, and I'm actually curious if this trunk is gonna get taller. I believe it is, but this is a really nice plant. Here's my Aglaonema sparkling Sarah. This one's doing well. The roots are actually starting to come down through the bottom of the pot, so I might have to up pot this one soon. But this plant never gives me any difficulty. Here is my Monstera Latreana. I propagated this plant and it just took a straight dive. So this would probably be, I'm not sure if I'm going to declutter this plant. It is giving me a new growth point here. But yeah, this plant does not look good at all. So this is why I said I'm giving you guys the full look of what my plant collection looks like right now, because like I said, all my plants don't look good right now, but this is what happens. Here are my alocasias. You guys asked me how my alocasias were doing. This is the real look of alocasia, at least in my home. This is my Frydek. It's doing okay. As you can see, this leaf is probably gonna go because I was not watering this plant right. I really need to make sure I water these plants good, but as you can see, it's looking pretty good now. It's not looking the best, but it does have a pup in here, which is this part here. This is my Aglaonema Lucky Red. This plant I just cannot I cannot deal. This plant grows so slow, and I just really recommend it if you guys get alocasia, if you guys get Aglaonemas, that you get a fuller plant, a more established plant. I do not recommend plugs for Aglaonemas, and this is what this was. It did not die or anything. It was this small when I bought it, and I shouldn't have bought it like this. I think Aglaonemas need to be established plants. This is my Black Velvet, Alocasia Black Velvet. This is the newest leaf. As you can see, the leaf is huge. The only thing is I can't get them for the petioles to be shorter. So as you can see, I'm getting massive leaves, but I'm not getting shorter petioles, and that's the only thing that I'm struggling with my alocasias. So like with this one here, it has a bigger leaf, but I'm still not getting shorter petioles. So that's my Alocasia Maharani. The Sansi one did burn this leaf because the plant was getting too close to the Sansi light, so that's what's happened there. But I think with the alocasias, I'm going to give them one more growing season, and I'm thinking about putting them outside. If they don't thrive after that, then they're gonna go. Over here we have my variegated burl marks, which is doing pretty well. It did just put out this leaf. It's still unfurling, and then it has some growth points. This one's gonna unfurl soon. There's a growth point over there. So this one does grow pretty fast. It has several different growth points, and I don't really have any complaints about this one. I do have to watch the watering on this one too, because this one does dry out, but that's some pretty good variegation. And I got this because I put it under the Sansi light. Here is my philodendron, my philodendron ghost. And it's doing pretty well. This leaf is trying to turn green, so I think that this one, look at that bug. I think this one will be okay because the leaves are finally turning a little bit greener. It is putting out a new growth point, a new leaf here. Another bright white leaf. So I think if I wanted to get more green leaves, I would have to move this in a darker area. I would have to move it away from my Sansi light. But as you can see, it is doing pretty well, and it is a really beautiful plant. So that's that plant. And then we come over here, this plant, I actually need to move this, put this on a taller moss pole. This is my Rhaphidophora decursiva. Here is the bottom of this plant. I did propagate this one to give a piece to my mom, but as you can see, it put out a long stem, and then these are the leaves at the top, which are really nice looking. I really like how these leaves came out. And so my dilemma was, do I cut this back and put this into the bottom, or do I just let it go tall? Because I really like how these leaves came out. This plant's really enjoying the Sansi light. And then you can see that there's a growth point here, but that's the dilemma with this plant. I should have put it on the moss pole earlier, because you can see like these stems get thick, so if you wait too long, there's no way to maneuver this on a moss pole. So should I just, you know, that's how it would look. I kind of don't like that, but it's interesting. Here is my variegated Stanleyana. Have a yellow leaf here I need to pluck off. Here is another shoot. So I propagated this one, and so now I'm getting multiple shoots. This is a newer leaf, that's why it's so shiny. But you see how this plant changes over time? And I pointed this out before, but these are the older leaves. As you can see, it's more smooth. And then you get leaves like this, which is so textured. But this plant is just so weird, because I bought this as an albo, but then it's giving me alba. You see how it has the white and the cream? I don't know if it's just my plant that does that, but it has the white and the cream variegation. But as you can see, it's a lot growing in here. So I like the look of it being more full like this, other than the one that I have over there, the green version. So that's what's making me think that I should cut the other one down to start over like this one, because I much prefer this look. And then once I pull this up, like that looks so much better than what I have for the other one. Over here we just have my snake plant. It just really likes it in this corner, so that's why I keep it. Over to my kitchen, we have these are my cuttings from my Syngonium macrophyllum. As you can see, these are huge. These were the top pieces of the plant, so that's why I want to just pot these up. And you see how that would be like a nice full plant? That would look so nice, and the roots are growing pretty well in this one, so I could actually pot these up, because you want your roots to be at least 2 to 3 inches. So I'm ready to pot this up to see how that looks. Some other ones, I still have these. The only thing that is about this Stanleyana, the green and the variegation, is that they root so slow. You see, like there's hardly any roots that develop. That's the only thing about the Monstera Stanleyana. Both the green, the variegated, and the Peru, they root so slow. Here we have my El Chaco Red. I don't even want to talk about this plant. Actually, I'm going to make a video on the plants I'm struggling with, and this one's going to be in there. This is some Subpinata cutting. This is that plant that the guy gave me. This is a Orbifolia, Calathea orbifolia. As you can see, it is not doing well, but when I actually had potted it, the roots were not there at all. And as you can see, it has a point of new growth, so maybe it'll turn itself around, but I am not going to hold my breath with that one. And we come over here. These are my 2 maidenhair ferns. These are going to be decluttered because I cannot deal with these 2. They need so much water, it is ridiculous, but you already know what plants are going to go. These are albo cuttings. This is my pedatum cuttings. I have a couple of them in here for my propagation video. Rhaphidophora cuttings to put it back into the pot to make bigger, and my Melanochrysum cutting to fill up that pot as well. And these are doing really well. These actually root really fast. As you can see, this it's already growing roots, and it has new growth points on both of those cuttings, so I'm really excited for that. If we come over here, we have my Ming fern. No, we have my asparagus fern. We have the Ming fern. These are doing a lot better because I'm doing so much better on the water, so we don't have as much brownage as we did in my fern video. See, these ones are doing a lot better. I really like how these are turning out too. Here's my money tree. This is a new leaf. That one's doing well. This is a new leaf. Then we have my asparagus fern, which here is the new frond that's going to develop. This one's also really nice, and I love how fluffy and bushy it is, and it just looks so woodsy. The other plant in my collection that's struggling is my philodendron micans. This one keeps getting thrips, and I'm tired of dealing with it, so that one's probably going to be decluttered, but we'll leave that for another video. And if we come into my bathroom, we have my Bantal Sansevieria, which is growing slowly, but it's growing. We have my Zenzi Zizi and my Moonshine. If we come over here, we have my, I think this is my Night Owl Sansevieria. We have my Fernwood, which is giving me new growth, if you can see that in there. So this one actually really likes it here. And we have my my mini Bonkel Sansevieria, the starfish, and this is the newest pup that it put out, so this one also likes it in the bathroom. So you can put snake plants in the bathroom. I do leave my bathroom light on for about 12 hours, and that's fine because I don't have any lights in my bathroom, and I don't have any windows in my bathroom, so I do leave my lights on, and as you can see, they do well with that. So if you need any suggestions for bathroom plants, I always recommend snake plants. If we come in here, we have my Aglaonema Key Largo. This is from Ill Exotics. It's doing pretty good. I have been getting a lot of yellow leaves, but I'm not sure if this because I got it from Ill Exotics, because a couple of the plants I've gotten from Ill Exotics have been tanking for some reason. But this one is still doing pretty well, and as you can see, it does have some new growth coming in, so I'm not that concerned. I'll be concerned if I lose more leaves, but as you can see, it still looks really good, and it's still growing. Here is the Aglaonema Silver Stripes, still doing well. This is the snake plant that I got out of the Tropicals, the Trending Tropicals bundle with my rubber tree. And it's beat up, but I still think it's beautiful. I have my two philodendrons. This is the neon, this is the heartleaf neon, and then the green. I really like the green. I do need to get these more light though if I want to get bigger leaves, but I kind of just want them to trail down my dresser. I think that would look really nice. Here's another heartleaf green. This is my Scindapsus Silvery Ann. I have some yellow leaves because I think it needs to be watered. But she's still cute. She's still cute. I'm gonna pick out these yellow leaves after this video. I didn't want to pick a whole bunch of yellow leaves and stuff because, like I said, I wanted to show you guys transparency and show you that all plants are not going to be good all the time, and that especially my plants aren't good all the time, because I did get a couple comments saying that all my plants look so lush and healthy and like perfect, and I just wanted to show you that they're not like that all the time. So that's why you see that. And then we have my Aglaonema Chocolate, which is blooming twice and giving me a leaf, so that's interesting. We have another Sansevieria like my other one. These are, I call them my twins. We have my Aglaonema Silverado, which is just always a rock star. And we have my Scindapsus Silver Splash. I got this from Gabriella's Plants, which I'm so glad it turned itself around. Which actually I kind of helped it turn around, because like I said in that video with my Scindapsus, half of the plant was rooted, half of it wasn't rooted. So what I did was I took the half that wasn't rooted and I rooted it in water, potted it back in the pot, and this is the result. So if you have a plant like that, that's what you'll want to do to fix it. This sad case is my Aglaonema Pink Moon, and I'm going to tell you, this one is going to go out to the compost because it wants to die. It wants to die. Do you even have a plant? Do you guys have plants that just don't want to live? That is this plant. And I'm kind of upset because This is the second time I'm trying this plant, and this is what's happening here. So, should I try this plant one more time? I don't know, but this is the current sad state of affairs with this plant. All right, so these are all going to be the same. This is my crinkle crispy wave fern, staghorn fern, another staghorn fern. They all love it here. Another staghorn fern and a crispy wave fern. So obviously I love my ferns, and that's what they look like. This is my Aglaonema Calypso. She is a beauty. I love this plant so much. This one does not let me down, and she just looks really beautiful. But that's what she looks like. And I just love the leaf variation on this plant. There's some that have more silver, some that have a little bit more speckling. There's a couple leaves that have like a neon green in it, which is really cool. And then I really love the speckling on the stems. So not only are the leaves speckled, but so are the stems, and that is so cool that it has that mottling. But this one has tons of new growth. It's always growing. So that's my Aglaonema Calypso. And then if we come back over here, this is my last section. I turned my humidifier off so that way it wouldn't be, you know, in the way. But this is my Aglaonema. I think this is a Wishes actually. I watched Carmen Whitehead's video and she has one just like this, and she said this is a Wishes, and I think that's actually what it is. But this one might go. You can see that this one is not doing well. And it was over in a section that didn't have a lot of light, so I figured I'd move it over here. So I'm gonna wait a while to see if it pulls itself together, and if it doesn't, it's gonna go. This is my Ploumanii, which is doing really well. Here's a new leaf, and there's another one deep in there, right there. This one's looking really good. I do have this one massive leaf, which is throwing me off, but that's fine. But I really like that plant. This is my Ring of Fire, which is doing amazing. And we have a new point of growth here that's going to unfurl soon. And that's what that plant looks like. We have my Red Valentine Aglaonema, which is blooming. Looks so beautiful. We have my Pink Splash Syngonium. That's doing a lot better. And my Anthurium regale is having some struggles. This is just, you know, dipping, humidity, things like that. This is the other leaf. I think this part got touched the light, but it looks okay. Down here we have this is the Frosted Heart Syngonium. It's the frosted version of the Chia Pence. But this one looks cute. It's not really that frosted to me, but maybe it'll get more frosted. This is my Syngonium Mottled. I love this plant as well. This is from Steve Leaves. I almost lost this plant, to be honest, and I'm glad that it's bouncing back. This is my Syngonium Chia Pence. They kind of look similar to the Macrophyllums, but that's what that one looks like. Here's my Clarinervium. And someone said my Clarinervium had a lot of leaves, and I guess it does, but this is one that does pretty well. You can see I had some humidity issues, but it's still doing really well. Gives me nice sized leaves, and it's actually putting out this leaf here, which I'm really excited. So I'm not sure, but I guess I do have a lot of leaves on that one. Here is my ruby rubber tree. I just did a video on my rubber trees, so if you have any questions about those, check that video out. Down there is my Anthurium superbum. I haven't seen any new growth on there, but it's also not declining, so Maybe it just needs more time. That is my rubber tree Taniki. And another thing with my rubber trees is that right now they're not growing because they don't have enough light. So if you check out that video, I explained how much lighting is important to the rubber trees. So mine are not growing at this point in time, because like I said, they're not getting enough light. They're basically just maintaining themselves. And that's because this is a northwest window, so they definitely need more light. And then this is my other windows are northeast, so that's why I supplement with lights. This is my Syngonium erythrophyllum. This is the Erythro Lana Carter Red or something like that. But that one's always doing good too. Give me nice dark foliage. I did chop that one up. That's why it's so full, because I propagated it and potted the leaves back in there. This is my Anthurium pandifolium, giving me nice big leaves. And then this was actually, so this one was actually my struggle buster of my last plant tour. If you guys saw, you can see what happened here on these older leaves. It doesn't look too good, but this is the last leaf it put out, which would have been okay if it didn't give itself a nice hole, but that's fine. It's giving me a new leaf here, and this one looks to be good so far. So this plant has turned itself around. I was gonna, send it on its way, but I'm glad that it's doing a lot better. So sometimes plants do need more time to get themselves together, and sometimes you do have to give them a timeline. If they don't get themselves together, then on to the next. This is my Syngonium auretum, always putting out nice sized leaves. You can see them all here. And here's a new one. So this one gives me no trouble. I do have to rotate it because you can see that the leaves are going that way. Here's my green rubber tree, my burgundy rubber tree. If your rubber trees get dusty, just wipe them off. Here we have my Queen Anthurium and her new leaf, my Anthurium Plowmanii from Plantarina, my Anthurium Forgetii. We have my Scindapsus dark form, which does not grow that fast. And then here, let me see if I can get in here. This is my Anthurium metallicum, and I was actually thinking about decluttering this one, but look what's happening now. It's finally doing something. So sometimes you might have to talk trash about your plants to get them to do something. This one was also not doing anything, and look, we got some stuff going on. This plant came in terrible from the grower. It was not even all the way in the pot, and it was sogging wet, so that was why this one took so long to get it to start some growth, because it just came in terrible. Here is my Scindapsus argyrius. I need to water this one because this is what Scindapsus do when they're thirsty. They start to curl. So if you are worried and scared about watering your plants, they do they do indicate when they are thirsty. Up here, I always forget to show you guys these plants, but I remembered this time. This is my Dischidia ovata, or the watermelon. It's doing really well. Here we have my Hoya linearis. This plant would look so much better if I remembered to water it. That is why I don't get a lot of plants that are needed to be hung up, because if I do, I forget to water them, but it looks okay. It doesn't look terrible. I keep saying I'm going to propagate it to get it fuller, but I will work on that. That's why I haven't bought any more plants, because clearly you can see that I have things I need to work on. So instead of buying more plants and making myself more stressed and overwhelmed and giving myself more to do, I'm still working on the plants that I currently have. But those are all the plants that I have in my bedroom. Alright guys, so that's it. That is the current state of my house plants at this current point in winter. Like I said before, all my plants are not perfect. I'm doing the best that I can. Yes, I've neglected some plants. Yes, I've had pest issues, but this is what my plant collection looks like. So I do have some things to work on as far as maintaining my routines, make sure I'm watering my plants, I'm not neglecting them on a regular basis. But like I said, that's also another reason why I'm not buying a lot of plants at this point in time. But I just wanted to give you guys an honest view into my houseplant collection, because like I said, your plants are not going to be perfect all the time. They're not going to always look good. They're not going to be that picture perfect Instagram look that a lot of people are showing. But yeah, that's what my plants look like. And sometimes you're not going to always get it right, but if you are trying and you're doing it mindfully and you're being thoughtful about your decisions, then it's not a bad thing. So if you lose a plant here or there, it's not terrible. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys what my plants are looking like, and I hope you guys enjoyed my houseplant tour. Like I said, let me know if you guys want me to do a declutter video, because like I said, I'm going to do that anyway. I'll just go ahead and film it if you guys want me to. And that's about it. I will keep you guys updated on my houseplants. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching my videos, subscribing to the channel. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that way you know every time I upload a new video. And me and Sage will see you in the next video. Bye.